What are you doing this weekend? Nothing? Just hanging out?
It's Father's Day on
Tomorrow,
Sunday.
I'm going to my dad's during the day.
Wonderful.
And then taking Anna to dinner tomorrow night for her birthday.
Oh, when's her birthday?
It was on the 14th.
Oh, man. Shit.
Yeah,
I better send her
I told
happy
you.
birthday.
I told Eugene, it's like, your daughter just missed, overshot by one day.
Shit.
And then Sunday is her parents' house. Father's Day.
Cool. You know where you're taking her to dinner?
Yeah, Sarpa's.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
We're going there Sunday, too.
After the thing?
After the thing, exactly.
Nice.
That's the way I like to talk. You busy weekend?
Yeah, tomorrow, obviously Sunday again, Father's Day. We're gonna be at my parents' my parents' place.
Right on.
And I am going to be on Saturday. We're cleaning up my house. We're scrubbing it up. And then in the evening, we're
What
going
are you
out to
doing
dinner.
with your house, anyways?
I'm gonna write
he has
it.
a
I'm gonna write it.
schedule.
Okay.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure. We're doing the.
Fuck me.
He's got an
escape room.
itinerary
I'm
for this
trying to
weekend.
figure-
Sweet Jesus, it's Father's Day weekend. This can't be complicated.
I know.
You gotta be at somebody's house for sure. For
I
at
can't
least,
believe it. Yeah.
We're
an
doing
itinerary.
I'm trying to figure. We're doing a Murdoch Mysteries escape room
What?
on Saturday night. Yeah.
Where's this?
At George Brown House. They have a Murdoch mystery themed escape room.
Cool, man.
Awesome.
It's very old timey.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
is this?
It's called George Brown House, I believe.
Where is it?
It's downtown on Dundas.
Near the George Brown house. George Brown's house.
So yeah, we're gonna go for dinner at 7:30, and then at 9:30
Downtown? Dinner downtown?
It's like they're like 5
Anywhere
minutes
good?
from each other.
Or is it going to be just like a big
I think this better be a good
treat or two? A
escape
quarter
room
pounder
because it's
with
like
cheese?
45. It's $47 a person. It's pretty expensive.
It's
Yeah.
just the two of you?
No. I'm
Your
going
family?
with a bunch of people from the university,
Okay.
from a bunch of my engineering crew.
Oh, brains.
For the record, I am a Murdoch
Brains.
mystery fan, so.
Oh, you? Oh, of
It's
course,
a
I
pretty
know you
good show.
are.
Like, I can't believe it's still
know.
running. Like, holy crap!
I know. What is it, like 8 seasons, 9 seasons? I bet you're there,
I think
Big
it was
V.
8 so far.
Wow.
Brand new episodes, grabbing a bucket of popcorn. He's munching there. Oh, I wonder what
I've
Murdoch
seen a
is going
few
to get out
episodes.
of it.
I've seen a few episodes. It's
Going to
very
get into
fun.
now. Yeah, it is a good show. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a good show.
A good old Canadian show.
Thank God CBC picked it up.
Who was running it before?
City.
Oh, City, and they gave
Rogers.
it up.
They gave it up.
They must have traded it for Family Guy. Family Guy left Global and went to City.
know
Yeah,
that.
I was surprised. I noticed that a couple of weeks
Yeah,
ago.
it is on City,
2 or 3 years ago. I was like, oh, wow. Global covered a Family Guy. Jesus Christ.
I had my
wonder
other
if it got
means-
expensive.
I had my other means of watching Family Guy.
Yeah, who doesn't? Well, also because they don't even air on a precise schedule anymore. They're always it's like one episode every 3 or 4 weeks. They don't even do a full complement anymore.
Well, you realize
Sounds
that-
like Crew Roundtable Podcast.
Very similar, except
but I-
they're not paying us. They're paying him millions.
No, but I think they only had. I think it was only 18 episodes or something last season.
Yeah, they're
I
really
hate
short.
when that happens.
They're really short. Sometimes I'd be surprised if they even hit 18 episodes. Sometimes.
You know what? I hate when. Okay,
Oh, but-
I'm not going to get into this.
Hold on, one more thing.
You have 15 seconds.
The box sets for the Family Guy.
Yeah.
Oh, what a fucking pain in the ass. I had
10 seconds.
Shut up! I had to go through
Oh
them.
my god.
I found out. I thought I had all the box sets.
Oh my
I
god.
found I was missing 3 because they were doing volume by volumes instead of seasons.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't understand.
So the volumes, 3 of them, or sometimes 2 volumes or 3 volumes, were making up seasons.
The Big V Show.
Oh, fuck them.
I had to go through and look up the episodes,
Welcome everyone
and I
to the
realized I
Big
was
V
missing
Show.
actual
Here's your
3
host, Big V.
volumes. Shut
He's
up.
talking about
And I had to get them through Amazon. But this is after
Oh,
I had
for
this stuff for like
Christ's
10 years.
Big V's problems. All right.
Don't eat on microphone.
I know, come on, that's my
You're gonna piss
microphone.
off the guests. No, people like.
That's
people
my
don't like that.
microphone.
It,
Alright,
it
the
actually
problem-
it grosses people out to hear people eating. Don't
Yeah.
Crumbs went down to the floor. Yeah.
That's even worse. I vacuumed here for you guys last night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did the
Sorry.
mumbling into the mic was not...
All right, let's cut to the intro.
Let's do it.
When you to the Crew Roundtable Podcast, featuring Big V, Marko, Gino, and JR, with your host, the champ who runs the camp, Sal Champ. Visit us at crewroundtable.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the Crew Roundtable Podcast. I'm your host, Sal Champ, and with me this week is yet another skeleton crew. The same crew. Big V, welcome.
Giggity.
That sounded quite good on the level there. JR, welcome.
Hello, champ. Thank you for welcoming us to your humble home.
Yes, you're very welcome. And shout out to Gino and Mark. You guys didn't mention where he is, but we'll save that for the end of the episode.
Yeah, they're still MIA. Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be breaking news at the end of the episode.
So just to remind everyone, you are listening to the Crew Roundtable Podcast. Catch us on Twitter at Crew Roundtable. Like us on our Facebook. Subscribe and listen to our YouTube. And subscribe on your favorite mobile device using iTunes or the Google Play Store. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about solar panels as an investment. Is it worth it? Now, I always wondered about putting up solar panels and how it works, who pays what, and how much you get paid, and when do you make your money back. So I'm just going to hand it over to these sharks over here because they know all about these topics. So the blood is in the water, boys. Who's first?
I'll start first. Everyone knows that about 10, 15 years ago, Ontario, what they tried to do is they tried to create the jumpstart renewable industry. They didn't want to just the electricity wasn't near there, but they wanted to. Hopefully, they wanted to bring industry into manufacture in Ontario by creating a market.
There was also another reason, though, too.
What was the other reason?
The coal.
Yeah, but they were phasing out of coal.
Was that later on? Or has it been?
I think it was around the time that they planned it. Right, the planning, the phase out took a long time because you don't just turn off a switch. They had to build up the other resources to cover
the.
I have to say that was very successful. The last 2 summers we have not had smog days.
Yeah,
really.
There has been no smog alerts for the last 2 summers.
Yeah. And it was a lot of coal plants. There was about what
they were putting out. Yeah, they were putting out, and a lot of them were close to Toronto, so they were putting out quite a lot of particulates, CO, a lot of pollutants, a lot of sulfur dioxide because sulfur is a natural coal contaminant.
Yeah, so and they had to be close to the GTA simply because distance decreases the amount of electricity.
Right.
Yeah.
That reaches the source. When it's needed.
I actually have a friend who did her PhD in air particulates.
Yes.
If anybody's a friend of mine has followed my feed about in 2012, 2013, I actually was a monitoring station for my area.
Oh.
She put we had a pump in my house that was sampling through the window, and there was an outdoor reader that was collecting particles. And I had to keep strict logs if I barbecued, if I fried.
Wow.
The next door neighbor, there was construction going on, so every time they were operating their diesel Caterpillars, I had to log it. Oh. And they were getting basically getting a 2-week fingerprint over the GTA of air particles, not pollution, but air particles. And so then there was definitely a decrease since
interesting. Okay.
Since then. But getting back to our topic, so they ended up doing was it wasn't just solar panels, but they were paying companies to feed excess electricity into the grid.
Okay.
Via green sources.
Okay, so
green sources, but any company that produced
wind, solar.
Yeah, but it was also targeted at companies that generate their own electricity because they need higher voltage or higher power that what the grid can produce.
Okay.
If they were in excess, it would feed it back into the grid. So that would be part. That was part of it. But they were trying to clean up the grid, and they created this initiative where I think it was 44 cents a kilowatt hour. So it didn't. So the way it worked was you still bought your electricity off the grid. The inflow, it was one thing, and then the the province bought all of your solar panel output. It wasn't that you're using 100 watts, but your panels are generating 200 watts.
Here's your bill.
So it wasn't that you were spending zero on electricity plus whatever the province was buying. They bought all 200 watts or kilowatts.
You can't use your own.
You couldn't use your own supply. No getting high on your own supply.
No, exactly.
And the problem was you were this artificially high rate was now creating I don't know fake business, but it was creating a very strange business plans where people were just opening up companies that were buying electricity, that were putting up solar panels, because after 10 or 15 years of payback, after that and these are 20-year contracts.
Okay.
The last 5 years, you made a shitload of money.
Okay.
Once your investment was paid off,
right?
And but the only problem is that it was an artificial market. I think that's what I was trying to get back. It isn't that there was some sort of demand or business plan. You just automatically signed up, and for yourself, it was a great business. But for the province, it's not sustainable. It was almost 2 or 3 times what everybody else was paying. What the rest of the group was paying.
It was an artificial inflation of electricity cost.
So for every 3 houses that were generating electricity, it offset the one house that was selling the electricity back into the grid. It really wasn't saving you any money. It wasn't saving the province. It was costing the province quite a bit of money. And ultimately, I don't think a solar panel manufacturing came to Ontario. I don't think that's set up here.
Okay.
No,
So
a lot of it was coming from across the border.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is coming from China. China is really big in solar panels. They manufacture a lot of them there, probably because they're looser environmental regulations. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were coming from China. So I think the province is scaled back. Plus, it didn't bring in. I think the cost didn't justify it. So I believe they've lowered their rates. What was it again,
They
BB?
lowered it by pretty much half.
Okay, so it's about 22 cents a kilowatt hour.
And for the individual, for their home, a lot of people were doing it, but at the same time, because of the amount of time required, the 15 years or so, to actually pay off the capital and to start making actual profits from the panels, it was, you're looking at it and you're like, well, are you still going to live in this house 15, 20 years down the road? Mm-hmm. The money that you have to spend for the upkeep and the maintenance on these solar cells, unless you were and I saw this often now, companies with huge square footage buildings, it was very profitable and actually made sense for them. They just lined their rooftops with solar cells. Schools, especially high schools, lined their roofs.
Well, let's not forget
solar cells.
For them, there's a side benefit because they're basically casting a shadow onto the roof.
Yeah.
And whatever wasn't turned into electricity either gets radiated back or reflected. So the businesses probably got a lot of AC help out of it because it cooled the roof.
Yeah, basically the second floor of buildings or whatever, they weren't as warm as they would have been if these panels were on the top.
Yep.
Right? And even now, there's even a lot of schools that actually have solar panels architecturally built into the school. Out in Vaughan there, in Woodbridge, Bray Buff, they actually have a couple of crosses on the building. They're solar panels.
Oh. Nice.
The high school.
Holy solar.
Yeah, exactly.
solar.
This was very ingenious. The high school in Richmond Hill, I can't remember the name now, but on the second floor they have awnings providing shade onto the classroom windows. They're actually all solar panels.
Nice.
Wow.
All the awnings around the school. There's going to be maybe 50 panels acting as awnings. to block out the sun, so the classrooms don't get so as warm in the summertime. Beautiful.
I think another benefit, and it just came to me while I was listening to Big V speak. I think the other idea for the province was it was a flexible source of electricity during peak times. Think of it this way: in the summer, when it's really sunny and therefore really hot, a lot of residential homes, which are generally unoccupied. Most people are always at home, are not always at home. They're both parents are working, kids are at school, or at daycare or whatever. The AC is still running, and even if you are like us and you play with the settings, the AC still runs. It runs less often and for shorter periods, but it still runs. And you multiply that across 2,000-3,000 homes in any given area, and that's a lot of power. And back in the late '90s, early 2000s, when we were before the Liberals came into power, before Dalton McKinney became premier, the grid was waning, and we were having problems supplying. There was a lot of brownouts. I remember there was brownouts all the time, especially in summer.
Yep.
And sure, and you can't just throw another power plant at it, especially if you only need that power plant for 8 hours a day. It's not efficient to be
for 3 months of the year.
Exactly, you can't operating it for 3 months of the year is ridiculous, and then operating it for 8 hours a day out of the 3 months of the year is even more stupid. And I believe, and I'm sure the government realized this. If it's a nuclear plant, that's not even a question, because once the reaction starts, you don't regulate nuclear reactions. You can probably do so a little more with coal plants, but even still, with coal, the startup time, you've got to start boiling the water. It takes a long time to start up a coal plant or even a hydroelectric. I guess that might be a little easier to regulate, but they're very local. The problem is that the hydroelectric is not easy to drop anywhere. It's only very select areas that can do hydroelectric, so that's even limited. So I believe the idea was, well, let's get everyone to install solar so that on days where they're most productive are the days that there's more AC demand.
Okay.
Right? And therefore, it'll self-regulate without having to build more infrastructure. And I think that was the key idea. But, I don't think it's been a humongous... I don't think there's a lot more uptake, but I don't think it's been the huge uptake that everyone was hoping it is. Basically on the fact that solar panels aren't super efficient. I mean, the solar panels on the space station.
Yeah, that's what I was
for
about
example,
to say. Some are very efficient, but they cost more than your home.
And they're still not even 30%. Like most giant leaps, quote unquote, giant leaps in efficiency are 1% to 2%.
Oh, okay.
In commercial solar panels. I believe commercial solar panels might be 20 to 22% efficient because the crystalline, the silicon crystals need to be perfect. They're referred to as monocrystalline, where they're one giant crystal grown really flat. And if there's any flaws, you can't fix it. You got to throw the whole sheet out or the whole square out. So there's a huge amount of waste, and that's partly why. Solar panels, the high efficiency solar panels are more expensive. There's been a lot of work in polycrystalline solar panels, which are less expensive, but they're also less efficient. But then they're trying to get them to an approximate cost efficiency where you can put more and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So, but that's the limitation on solar energy. Then add to the fact that we were discussing before the show. You can't just plug in a solar panel to the grid and think all the electricity mixes like water. Right?
Yeah, it's a very setup.
It's very complicated. Electricity is ridiculous math. I remember taking it just in first year. And it was very difficult to understand. You've got phasing, you've got frequency, you've got current, you've got your voltage, and
Damn Tesla.
Yeah, and they don't just mix. It's not, you don't just pour electricity into a pool and it all becomes one temperature of electricity, right? It's very difficult to combine electrical feeds, and so you end up with a lot of waste trying to convert them down to a common parameter. And so it's very challenging to put. I think this. These individual solar panels cause more mess than they really solve.
Well, back to the question: is it a good investment?
Yeah, like would you be running to sign up and cover your roof
when I
with
was
them?
saying that, it comes down to quantity. Okay, for the individual home buyer, straight out, your roof it ain't big enough to carry enough solar panels. In which you can get a better rate per panel because you're buying in larger quantities. Because straight out, the panels on a guy's home and the panels on that school or that factory, you're still getting the 43 cents a kilowatt each, right? The only difference is that building, that school, is going to have 10 times 15 times the number of solar panels that they got at a cheaper rate because they got that many in a one shot, right? Which means in the long run for them, it's going to take a lot less time to recoup their money.
That's true. That's
It'll probably
true.
take them only 10 years instead of 15 years, okay? Now, as a home buyer, if you got to wait 15, 20 years, start making money off of your investment.
You probably won't be in your house that long.
Yeah, and you might be dead.
Maybe.
Never mind, you might actually be dead.
Well, that's not realistic.
Yeah, that's not.
We
Come
don't
on
have
now.
a very high mortality rate, Ontario. We've got socialized
I'm
healthcare.
just saying. Listen, I'm saying shit happens.
Shit happens, but
Right?
the more
but
you're
it's
right.
too long of a time.
You're right. But your first scenario is more right. The likelihood that you're going to move out in 15 years is very likely. Until maybe you hit your last, what conceivably is your last home.
Yeah.
You know,
or say you're even in the house for 20 years and you made money off of the last 5 years, right? Off of that contract. Then what? What happens in the next contract? Right? Oh, now it's like 20 cents.
I'm just
Right?
curious to what happened. Well, the thing is, though, these are generally low maintenance devices. There's no moving parts.
Yes, but still,
We don't
15,
we're
20
not-
years is 15, 20 years.
We're not in a very heavy hail environment. These are actually because of the company I work for. I know that the panels are all tested in Mississauga.
Okay.
The National Solar Laboratory is run by Exova, and they have these immense UV fake solar light. They basically simulate the sun.
Yeah.
And these guys, if they're anywhere near these things, first of all, you can't stand in front of these lights.
Okay.
You'll be frightened. You'll be burnt to a crisp.
Wow.
And everybody who does the testing has to wear sunscreen inside, just because stuff can reflect off shiny surfaces, and you're getting like fake sun exposure.
Oh my god.
So yeah. So basically, there's just there's weathering. So it's the cables, if they're not. Yeah, they can if they're not secured,
They can become
corrode.
brittle.
You know, they can corrode. So there's that little maintenance. If the seals on the solar panels start to break down and with the light exposure, they can start getting water infiltration.
Constant
we
contracting and expanding through our winters and
thermocycling, you're
our
right.
summers.
Oh, yeah.
Like
And,
basically 15, 20 years, it's a long time.
Yeah.
There's going to be maintenance costs with regards to some of these panels.
But depending on what the lifetime of the panels are, if the panels are designed to last 25 years or even 20,
I'm sure there's a warranty.
20 years, yeah, there's a warranty, but even still, they're not going to break on year 20.
No.
Right?
No.
Usually, that's why a lot of these extended warranties are all bullshit, because most stuff lasts longer than the warranty. And so if you've paid off the panels in 15 years, you get the extra 5 years of gravy. If you sign up for another 20-year contract,
It's not. Yeah.
yeah, It's not like you have to fulfill it either. If the panels break 5 years into contract number 2, well, you're just not producing anything. The province doesn't pay you anything, and you haven't lost anything.
Exactly.
Now here's the other issue. Curb appeal. There has been a lot of instances where if you have solar panels on your home, they turn people off when it comes time when you want to sell the house.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm sure it also it also acts as a selling feature to others as well. It's not like because it's not like a pool. I know pools almost universally will have been known for many years in the real estate to lower your property value.
Really? A pool?
Oh yeah,
It's work.
Because it costs
It's
you.
work.
Because a lot of people don't specifically want a pool.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get rid of it, it costs you money.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it, it costs you money. It's a lot of work, and it eats up a large square footage of your grass. So, I mean, if you wanted a backyard and now it's all pool, well, now what's the point of that? In the winter, they can be pretty dangerous, even if you cover them, because they're not covered safely. You could fall right through them.
And there's also one other item. Even though the solar panels do cover your roof, there is still weathering occurring on your shingles. Because when it rains, the water still flows down them.
Yeah. Not as much.
No, but
There's no sun, really.
True. The panels take more of the beating. But you're right. Now that you got half your tiles, half your shingles aging differently than the rest of the shingles.
That's true. The ones on the north and
now the problem is after say 25 years, because normally shingles lifetime is about roughly 15 years, 17 years now.
Yeah.
What happens after say they last 25 years, but they got to be replaced with the ones that are underneath those panels? That's a bitch.
That's a lot of work.
You have to remove all the panels. You have to undo the electrical, remove all the panels, redo the roof, and then you have to have an expert come and both remove and reinstall the panels again.
Wow.
And guess where the money to do all that?
Oh, it's the last 5 years.
Uninstallment and the reinstallment.
The last 5 years.
Oh yeah, right there.
Yeah. I guess if you have a big roof, that's going to cost you a lot of
So
money.
that's
And then if you go for the 50-year plan, I guess the only option there is get a steel roof.
yes, that is, but that's even more costly too.
But then that could be dangerous because steel roofs are dangerous to walk on because they're very slippery.
yes,
Right? So they may not even be able to install these panels safely on a steel roof. I know my dad and my brother, they were putting a metal roof on a garage, and they almost slipped off of that. It was very, very risky. It was very dangerous.
yep.
You need the
No
right
magnet
equipment.
boots?
Well, realistically, what you're supposed to be doing is you're supposed to be
anchoring
harnessed
yourself.
over the other side of the
Yeah.
over the other side of the roof.
Yes.
But I've never seen anybody ever do that. Professional roofers have never done that.
So,
they just,
but when you have when you have these panels on schools and on factories or whatever, they're actually not directly attached to the roof. They're on like stilts or they're on like frames, right?
Okay.
So industrial roofers can go in and redo the roofs with these there because they're not in the way.
But those industrial roofs also last a lot longer than shingles
Yes,
because
and they're not shingles. They're actually a composite of gravel and whatever.
well, that's
Yeah,
just
like
the top
gravel and
layer.
stone.
I actually test these things. Yeah, they're basically the business layer is like this insulation. So they'll have like a glue on the deck. They'll glue the insulation down, and it's the top the layer on top of the insulation that does all the
Tar?
waterproofing.
Oh.
It could be tar, but not all. It's not just tar.
Okay.
It's they're actually rolled on sheets.
Yeah, those black
The black rolls.
sheets. Yeah.
They put those down. So they used to stick them down with tar with asphalt. They've gotten away from that. They used to do torching, but that's dangerous. If you're not very experienced, you can catch. You definitely cause fires, like back in the early 2000s at Dufferin and Lawrence.
Okay.
The whole subdivision under construction caught fire because someone was not torching carefully, caused a little bit of ember. It got covered because they unroll it as they're doing, and about an hour after everybody went home, it burned through and caught the whole place on fire.
Oh, wow.
It's a real risk. And now they're all cold applied. You unroll it, and the heat from the sun glues everything down. They're designed to soften under the sun and stick on their own.
But this stuff can be done around the framework that holds up those solar panels on industrial and school roofs. But you can't do that at homes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, homes are not flat roofs.
So,
You're
personally, especially now, like we were discussing before, now that the rate that people will get for giving back to the power grid is probably half the amount, the cost of solar cells probably will come down, just so that they can continue selling them. Because now that it's only half the amount, the money that people are going to get, the demand to go get these solar cells are obviously going to drop. So,
but the question is, will people just stop and get out of the install business?
Probably.
And
Because
then you won't be able to put them in at all.
Because there's only a certain point that the price of these panels can only go down, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna if the cost of making money is just dropped by half. Do you think these guys are gonna drop the price of solar panels by 50%? There's a certain mark where they make money and it's worth their while to stay in business and do this.
It depends on what the profit margin is. If the profit margin is if their markup is not 100%, it's not going to drop. 50% means they're working at cost. But apparently, Elon Musk was just talking recently about solar shingles.
Oh my God!
Which is the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So, and the thing is, you don't cover the whole roof in solar panels. It's like every other or every third shingle is solar. Yeah, it's an alternating thing. So,
but when are we gonna get it?
Who knows? It's probably California than everybody else.
Yeah, like those solar panel pavers.
Yeah, when did that happen?
Did you? But you saw it. Have you heard about it?
No, I haven't heard about that.
So
what are you talking about?
like these thick glass solar panels, and they pave walkways with them.
Oh, okay, like solar sidewalks, basically.
Yeah,
Be kind of cool.
that'd be neat.
There's a lot of as long as they're the right price. That's the problem. Is solar is very expensive.
It's not going to be cheap, and I don't think we're going to see them.
Unfortunately, solar is still expensive.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think we're being held back by the physics of the whole thing. Realistically, with solar and any green technologies, you're trying to cheat thermodynamics. In thermodynamics, you've got energy at high concentration moves to a low concentration. So you've got fire, for example, or the sun, which is a super high concentration of energy, that moves to an area that has less energy. And then what green energy is trying to do is take that low energy and then create more. Then
basically energy is lost along the way.
It's not about energy being lost. What you're trying to do is concentrate this low energy back into high energy, right? So, but in doing that, it's going to naturally be expensive, right? You're trying to put. I mean, the sun that hits, the amount of energy per square foot is very low on the solar panel. That's the problem, right? It's not that it's laser or it's really high. It's very low energy amount wattage per square foot that's even hitting it. Mm-hmm. And now you're only converting like a sliver of it to electricity. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's become so expensive, as opposed to more traditional technologies that start with sources of very dense, concentrated energy, like nuclear fuels and coal,
and running water,
and water. And even water is a similar thing, and water where they artificially concentrated by building dams. Yeah. And then you're trying, and so they have a lot of energy, and then even if they only capture some of it, you're still starting with a very dense source. But with solar and wind and stuff, they're wonderful sources, but they're still low density, and therefore you need more units. Mm-hmm. You need a lot of windmills. You need a lot of square footage in order to meet the demand.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode. Hopefully everyone got to say what they needed to say. Anthony, I know
Hope we shed some light on this topic.
For certain, that's true for me. Anthony, I know where you stand on this subject, but give me your final thought.
Just as a whole, I don't believe it's worth it, especially now that the rates have been cut in half, and even if they weren't at 43 cents, 44 cents before, this was an artificial inflation of electricity costs that eventually would make electricity in the province more expensive to the buyers, which would be us, in comparison to where we were getting electricity before, which was coal and a lot cheaper than 43 cents per kilowatt. So personally, home-wise, no. Having solar panels on industry buildings, educational buildings, basically where the square footage is big enough to house a big enough grid system of solar cells, I would say go for the gold.
Thank you. JR, final thought, 1 minute.
I would say, in the way it's implemented, it's not that great. I would love to see solar cells combined with a very affordable battery bank.
Oh yeah,
I believe Tesla's coming out with something like that.
Oh yeah,
I heard about that.
Where you can charge the battery, and then you can use it. So you don't
Later
have
on.
to. So yeah, then you can use it later.
that'd be nice. Yep.
Yeah, it would be nice because a lot of people aren't home.
I believe
during the
what
day.
it was these banks would bank electricity during non-peak hours, and then you would use them at peak hours at the cost of what it was to charge them.
True. I mean, you can do it that way. I mean, but if you could feed them with a zero costs option, that would be really nice as well, or very low, or something that doesn't continuously cost money to run.
I think it was because of nuclear power plants. You could only bring them down to a certain point of electricity production, just because you can only, when you remove the rods, right?
Yes.
You produce less, but there's a minimum, right?
Yes,
And in a lot of
exactly.
cases, even the minimum that a lot of these power plants were pumping out electricity was still more on the non-peak hours than was needed. And that was the theory, is like, let's bank that at that cost and use the charged batteries in the peak hours to make the peak hours less expensive.
Yeah, that's probably it's the unfortunate double-edged sword of power generation.
Mm-hmm.
If you come up with a source that you can turn on and off on a whim,
That's awesome.
that power is very expensive because of startup and shutdown costs. But then if you and it's also inefficient. But then if you come up with a power source that generates efficiently but has to be on continuously, then you're generating electricity you can't sell. So there's no winning in that scenario. That power source doesn't exist, and then therefore we have to deal with the system as best we can.
Well, I got to say, you guys have given me a much clearer picture on the solar panel business here in the province of Ontario, and looks like I've been swayed to saying no to solar.
Yeah, it's just not practical for residentials.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining us. We are the Crew Roundtable Skeleton Crew. Big V, JR, thank you for joining us. For our listeners out there, don't forget to hit us up on Twitter at Crew Roundtable. And if you have any topics or suggestions, use the hashtag AskTheCrew. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, and on your mobile device, check us out on iTunes and the Google Play Store. And when you subscribe to our feed, we also have JR Talks to People, hot new show here on the Crew Roundtable Network, as well as our existing show on our feed, Hot Takes with Gino. JR, any shout-outs you need to pump out?
Yeah, today's shout-out will go to Maria Surer at Maria_1. We had a very, very positive exchange. She's a new listener, and I hope she's listening right now and enjoying the show. Stingray2, who is Steve Scully, who was a former British Army vet, who was a current vet. I'm not sure if he's still in the Army, but he is a former British Army soldier. So way to go, Steve. Tim Jablonski, who is at Tim Jablonski, who was looking just for a new podcast and has added us to his playlist. So thank you very much, Tim. I hope you're listening now. And finally, Goose, who goes at the handle at Gabrielle Drolet. That's Gabrielle with 2 L's and an E, who is happy to support local GTA podcasts. I hope you're listening right now, Goose, and enjoying the show.
Thank you, JR. Wonderful. And Big V has a shout out as well.
Yeah, actually, it's not an exactly shout out, but it's an update with regards to Marko and Eugene, as we indicated earlier in this episode. We'd follow up with regards to where they are. Unfortunately, they are missing in action. Literally, we received a letter from the Red Army indicating that Marko has been declared missing in action. His last whereabouts with 2 hot-looking Polish blondes in a gulag. And as for Eugene,
he was last I heard he was. He got into a car at Hooker Harvey's, and we have not seen him since. Eugene, if you're out there, call us. We hope you're safe.
We are keeping you in our prayers, both Mark and Eugene.
I hope he hasn't cheapened himself to cheeseburgers. Thanks for listening, folks, and ciao for now.